business, where about 50% is comprised of imports and another 50% is comprised of exports between Korea and Indonesia. And this is a huge business that could potentially be applied using a blockchain. And why do I say this? I say this because of a few reasons. International trade finance settlement is very costly for both the exporter and the importer. We need to rely on third-party services like banks. It's also quite slow. Depending on the type of settlement system that we use, it could take up to 30 days or up to even a few months. And third of all, like I mentioned before, it still depends on intermediaries in the ecosystem. So we can't really have a trustless way of settling. Currently, as you know, there's a couple of methods that people can use to settle payments between cross-border. First of all is consignment, where the exporter can potentially consign their goods to the country that imports it. Cash payment. We could also do opening an account, collection of a draft, and the fifth of all, letter of credit. Now these 5 different methods of settlement have different levels of trust for those the exporters and importers. And they actually work in a very inverse way. Whenever the exporter gains benefit from more trust in a method of settlement, the importer has less trust. And this goes in an inverse way between all the different forms of settlement. Now we think using a combination of a blockchain, a smart contract, and IoT to track the actual goods in trade, we can have equal amounts of trust between both the exporter and the importer. And I think this could be potentially a game-changing way to perform trade settlement. Of course, we can't have this level of trust without one missing part in this solution, whether it's the blockchain, the smart contract, or the IoT. So, even with that in mind, we still think there is something missing in this technical stack. Traditional cryptocurrencies can potentially solve the problem of trade finance and cross-border remittances, but cryptocurrencies are too volatile. Actual people in business can't use cryptocurrencies to actually pay for goods, because if you can imagine, you pay this morning and in the afternoon the value of your payment decreases by 10% or gains by 10%. It's just not a good form of performing businesses. So that's why we want to introduce a stablecoin, the Indonesian rupiah stablecoin. It's a one-to-one backed stablecoin, meaning for every one rupiah token that you receive, we'll deposit 1 rupiah in the bank account. So we always maintain the peg. How it works is very simple. First, for the purchase cycle, you deposit 1 rupiah into our bank account. We'll mint 1 new token on top of a blockchain, and then we'll send that token to you. And vice versa, when you want to redeem the token out of circulation, you can send those tokens to us, we'll burn the tokens, and then we'll send the money to your bank account. It's very, very simple process. We do this both potentially for B2C, but mainly for B2B, and we're going to partner with different exchanges across the world. So the global stablecoin market is currently very much saturated towards the United States. And this is something that's quite interesting, because Asia is actually much bigger, I think, in terms of potential digital users. Currently, the US has about 270 million digital payment users out of a total population of 327, while Indonesia alone has 147 million and still has a huge room to grow. And our growth of digital users are much, much higher than the US. We're at 26%, while the US is at 9.5%. Yet, the US has about $5 billion in stable coins in circulation right now, while we have less than $1 million. A lot of people say that US stable coins are dominant because in the past, in history, everyone has always transacted using US dollars. But I kind of disagree, because I do see a potential future where we don't need to be reliant on the US dollar. We can potentially trade directly from rupiah token into Korean won or any other stable currency. And this could potentially be a much more efficient way of doing trade. And so back to our story earlier, back to Jungi. So how can we actually help him? Since this is a developer conference, I thought it would be really great if we highlight a few of the key things that we could build together for cases for the trade finance. And so here are a few options that we thought about applying to trade finance. First of all, freight forwarding. This is a very labor document-intensive service that also touches directly with the goods that are being moved around the world. Of course, freight forwarding also requires you to have a strong IoT and implementation, because this could be the way that we track the actual goods in settlement between both parties. Supply chain management, we also think is really good, because we can track the goods across different areas, and this is needed to ensure that the goods actually arrive and there's actually a settlement of the goods. International payments, I think this I already mentioned quite clearly previously, could be used as a form of actual payments. And smart insurance is also quite interesting, because then the goods that you are trading could be insured and could be locked up in a smart contract that's tied to the good. So this is what we think the future would look like. A smart contract, whether it be on different types of blockchain depending on the user, will tie in both the exporter, the importer, the IoT service, and also the freight forwarder. And this will all be tied in value of Rupiatoken or a similar type of stablecoin, so that each individual party in this schematic would be tied to the contract and would have to stake up a certain amount of value so that we can ensure that they actually deliver the service. And today, as Jay mentioned earlier, we're also announcing that we will looking into working with Universe to develop the Rupiatoken on top of the Universe blockchain. I think this is quite an exciting project, given that Dunamu and Upbit has a big presence in Korea, and I think this could bring a lot of potential value, not only for both companies, but also for the greater economy, and especially in trade finance. And so what this will potentially look like is that Rupiatoken as a company will sit on the tokenization stack. Where we work is that we take the cash from banks or offline retail channels and deploy them onto a few different blockchains. Right now, we're already working with on Ethereum and the Binance chain, and starting today, we'll be starting to work on the Universe chain. And one of the key features that we do think there's a need for in the future would potentially be the cross-chain swappability. And so a little bit more about our project on the Universe and why we're working on this is that some of the benefits of working on a private blockchain is that there's high performance. Working on the Universe blockchain can maintain high throughput of transactions. We also manage the blockchain, so it might be easier for potential third-party players to come in and integrate with the blockchain. They don't have to run the validator node, or even if they want to be part of the validator node, it's very easy for them to be part of it. We can also control the transaction fees. To begin with, we do think that there needs to be low fees in the ecosystem to drive the adoption of the stablecoin. Thirdly, it's also important that we become FATF compliant, because as you know, blockchains and cryptocurrencies could be used as a form of money laundering or financing for terrorism. So we want to make sure that we avoid all of these things. And fifth of all, I think one of the most interesting things is decentralized finance. Once this is built on a scalable blockchain, you can start looking into things like lending, borrowing against a stablecoin currency. You can look into futures. The futures market is extremely lucrative as well. In Singapore, I know billions of dollars are made by banks to do futures transactions. Things like option contracts are also super interesting. So there's a lot to be looked at into decentralized finance. And so I hope with this presentation, you guys would be more interested in developing using Rupiatoken and also using it to develop new services along trade finance or along decentralized finance. I think it's a really, really great future. And with that, I want to thank you for the presentation and for being here. Thank you.